Welcome to Data Brew by Databricks with Denny and Brooke. The series allows us to explore various topics in the data and AI community. Whether we're talking about data engineering or data science, we're going to interview subject matter experts to dive deeper into these topics. In this season, we're going to focus on connected health and how data and AI augment and improve our daily health. And while we're at it, we're going to enjoy our morning brew. My name is Denny Lee. I'm a developer advocate at Databricks and one half of Data Brew.
And hello, everyone. My name is Brooke Wenig, Machine Learning Practice Lead at Databricks and the other half of Data Brew. And today I am thrilled to introduce Guillaume, who is a senior MLOps engineer at Fieldbox.ai and an insanely long-distance runner and winner of the Last Man Standing race. Welcome, Guillaume.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Brooke. Very excited to be with you guys and talk about science and running.
So to kick it off, Guillaume, what is this Last Man Standing race? Can you share a bit more about what this race entails?
Yeah, of course. So the Last Man Standing race started from the principle that in the actual competition in running worldwide, only like the very fast runner are rewarded. And in fact, a lot of people, maybe your neighbor, your friend, your family, they are doing incredible things because they are very, very resistant. It's just that they don't run as fast as those elite runners. So there is one guy who decided to make a race dedicated for those people. And so the principle is very simple. You do have a loop. It's 7 kilometers. So it's 4.633333333 miles. So a distance you can run in an hour. And in fact, you guys do have 1 hour to complete the loop. And once you complete this loop, you just wait for the next hour to start. And there is basically a new start every hour. And the race finishes and stops when there is only one runner left to, willing to go for another loop. So it's more like a resistance kind of event. And nowadays it go for like days. But we could talk about that a bit.
So how long exactly did you go for, Guillaume?
So myself in 2017, I ran for 59 hours. So it was pretty good. So 2.5 days without sleep.
Whoa. Okay. I gotta ask. Okay, so wait, how, where do you go to how do you squeeze in eating and go to the bathroom and all these other things? Like, is it just you finish the loop faster and then you have that little bit of time to,
exactly.
to squeeze that in?
You do basically have an hour to do the running of the loop plus everything you need. Maybe, I don't know, you have to change your socks, you have to go to the bathroom, you need to like drink a soup or anything. So you basically need to do your own strategy. Of course, you don't want to run the loop too fast because then maybe you get tired and also you will have to wait for 25 minutes. So you will get cold or something like that. So you need to basically time your loop perfectly to just do whatever you need in that allotted time.
And did you sneak in any cat naps or anything there?
So I try to. The problem is that when I'm running, I'm very, very excited. So it's very hard for me to nap. But some people can do it. And actually now, last year, the world record got beaten. Now it's 85 hours by R.V. Lewis, the guy who actually finished just after me. So but for those kind of like events, you do need to have a very good like sleep strategy. Unfortunately, I don't have one, but that's fine too.
Okay, as the last man standing, like for example, you were willing to run the 59th loop, 59th mile, right? Do you actually have to complete it in order to be the last man? Oh, sorry, not miles. The 7 kilometers. Do you have to run the full 7 kilometers in order to win, or like for sake of argument, nobody else was willing to run? You ran like 20 meters and you're good to go. Like, or do you actually have to run the full 7 kilometers?
Oh, you still have to finish the loop. Basically the goal is to do one more loop than everyone else. So you still have to complete it. So in the end, it was 246 miles. Which was a good day.
Were you able to run the next day, or how long did you need to take off after running that many miles?
Well, you are a bit in trouble for the next week after a race like that, because obviously your legs are a bit beaten. So it takes 7 to 10 days to feel okay to run, but also it's like motivation wise because you have run so much in so little time. You kind of need a mental break too from that. So 7 to 10 days and you can go for a little run around your park.
And so switching gears a little bit, I know this will come back to running in a second, but You have a PhD in cell biology and also biophysics. How exactly did that culminate into you becoming a long distance runner?
In fact, it's tightly linked. So I did my PhD in Bordeaux, and then obviously, like in academia, you need to prove that you can adapt to another scientific environment. So you go for a postdoc. I had the chance to get a Fulbright scholarship to join UCLA in the heart lab in the heart lab at UCLA. And so there, I didn't know anyone. It was a new country. And so I didn't have a car for LA, which is a big city, right? Without a car, so you need to go to places. So if you don't have a car, you can bike or you can run too. And so that's basically how I got really into running. I started, to go from places to another places. Then I wanted to discover my neighborhood. There was some mountain nearby, so I just started to go to the trailhead and then go up the mountain and down. So miles piled up, and then I just signed up for the marathon. That's how I got into it. So basically, just because I wanted to discover my area, I got into running, and running got to me.
And just for some context, while Guillaume was a postdoc at UCLA, I had TA'd one of the stats classes that Guillaume had taught. And I can vouch that he is a very good runner as well. Definitely kicked my butt on a few runs. But while you were at UCLA, you also got into the field of data science. How exactly did that transition happen?
Yeah, so the project I was working on was basically in the context of like heart attack, and what are the different cellular modifications that happen at the bioenergetic level in your cells. And so you do have a lot of data. It could be, for example, images. Because you are using fluorescent probe, and so you want to see, for example, how a protein moves from a cell location to another in real time. So you acquire all those data. You also have like a real-time data of like metabolite concentration, because of course, as your like cell contracts, the energy is consumed, and energy also has to be produced. So you do have a fluctuation and time series data of like the different metabolites, and so all those data needs to be analyzed. And data science comes very, very handy for that. So, and as an example of how data science can help, like researcher, we were like developing a very specific virus to modify a specific protein. And so the idea was to basically to deliver a medication to your cells. And of course, to know if the virus was change the protein we wanted, one option was to send the cells to be sequenced, and so to get the genome of it. And it could take, days to weeks to get back the result. So we decided to develop a model to classify the cell based on, the metabolic rates, or different features that we had. We were able to measure in real time, and so that way we could from this model know particularly live which cell were correctly infected and had the medication active, and the cell didn't have it. So it was also a lot of gain of time for us. So all those data, and it was also fun to visualize the data. So I guess as long as you do have data, you have to do data science.
So that's actually a pretty interesting segue. So basically, since you have the data, you might as well go do data science.
I guess. I mean, what else?
No, that's fair. That's fair. But then I guess what I was curious about is that, for example, I'd be lazy, right? When it comes to doing the analysis of my data. So considering how much of a runner you are, I probably would have just set my process running, wouldn't care, and then go for a run. So I'm just curious, how did you figure out the right balance of actually balancing out the running that you did, your passion for it, obviously, but also to go ahead and do become the expert in data science that you are now? How'd you find a nice balance between those two worlds?
That's the key. So let me explain to you in few images. You do have a lab where you want to live your passion about the data and data science. You do have a home. You need to go to the lab. So you just run, so you already have your first passion to go to the other one. So you see, it's a very easy mixed up.
I feel like you're going to continually move your home farther and farther from the lab to increase the amount of miles you have to do as part of your commute.
Yeah, I guess. But nowadays, the company I work on, so Feedbox.ai, is just actually half a mile from my place. So uh, I don't have like this strategy to go for a run now.
You have to run away from work to get to work.
Exactly. You actually have to go for across the mountains, right, through some vineyards before you come back. Your route just has to be that much more complicated. That's all it has to be, man.
So, given your experience at Fieldbox AI and your passion for running, how exactly do you apply data science to running?
It's a very good question, and I'm sure like people are also like experiencing a lot of like different use of their own data using data science. So on my side, what I do is that, so first of all, I do love to know, when I go for a running training or something like that. I mean, I like to know, what happened during this training. And so I obviously record everything. So I do have like a GPS watch, for example. I also have like heart rate monitoring that I do not use like all the time, but like for very specific training, like interval training, I do also record my heart rate. But anyway, collecting all those data, all those personal data, allows you like to quickly visualize what you have done during the week, during the months. And because I'm also passionate with like visualization, and for example D3JS, I made several like little personal app and custom application to visualize this training. It could be like a yearly training and compare it from a year to another or from a week to another. So that would be one way, because data science, of course, there is a cleaning of the data and visualization of the data. It's an important part before actually applying the modeling and everything like that. So that could be a way you could, apply data science to your running experiments, we could say. The other thing is that at one point I was really into trying to optimize my training based on like science. So I did a lot of research about it, and I kind of like wanted to try the Bannister model on myself. So the Bannister model is a way of basically modeling through data science your fitness and your fatigue depending on the training that you do before. So it works basically on kind of an impulse response kind of framework, meaning that each time you go for a training run, you will get some fatigue, but your physiology, your body will respond to that stress and will kind of have a circompensation mechanism that will make you better. So you always have like those two players into the game, the fitness and the fatigue. And so the Bannister model try to like modelize that, and you could use this model on your own personal data. So I was basically running this model on my training data to basically know, okay, what should I do next week? Should I go for a long run? Should I go for an interval training run and stuff like that? And so for like several months, I actually drove my training using that model, and in the end, it went well. I actually won Angeles Crest 100 miles. So it was a successful experiment. Obviously, it just n=1, but it's a one that counts.
I wish I could start a sentence off with, it was successful, I ran 100 miles and I won. I don't know if I'll ever be able to say that sentence, Guillaume. Exactly. But how do you continue to find the motivation to run? Like when you're at mile 80, how do you dig deeper to continue to make it through to mile 100? Like what are you thinking about for those very long runs?
So it's actually a question a lot of people ask me, and I always respond that, so for me, running, obviously it's fun, and I always see like a long run as a way to discover like an area or discover the world. So for me, running is not really a problem. I don't have like a losing motivation. I actually sometimes, like when I go for very long run, I don't even use like music or anything like that, because I'm just enjoying myself, surrounded by, I don't know, trees and leaves and stuff like that. So I mean, it's hard for me to give you like a very simple answer. How do I do? I don't know. For me, I mean, I don't have the problem of not being motivated by it. Obviously, sometimes you have a lot of pain, like you feel it in your legs, and you could be a bit down, but it's always a very short period of time for me, so I don't have like a demotivation problem at all. Especially because I enjoy running outside and discovering, my surrounding is what drives me.
So, okay, I want to switch us get us back to a little on the data part, especially that visualization part. So I'm just curious, why did you like go ahead and thank you, by the way, for teaching me up with the Bannister model. I was looking it up. I was like, oh, this is really cool. But I'm just curious that why outside, the geek in me agrees. Yes, I want to just build my own models and visualize it myself with D3JS. I actually grok it completely, but I'm just curious. Why do it yourself? Why not track it like using the available apps? Is it because the models isn't good? Like I'm just curious. Like what do you? It sounds to me like you're basically using the the model is just tracking like yourself in an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. I'm just curious. Like what is your approach here?
So you mean why do it like a custom DIY like solution instead of using, I mean, because it's always fun to understand how things are working behind, right? So obviously I could use like Strava directly, and they actually do have like the performance and fatigue curves inside the application. But then, it's I mean, I find it personally always more like motivating and fun to also do it by yourself so you can better understand the system as a whole. And nowadays it's like very also important in the data science world, because as you know, data science is only a small part of the full ecosystem. You need to be able, to obviously build this model, but then also deploy it. So you need to understand how the cloud works, how do a deployment or a container, what is it, etc., etc. And it's only by playing with those tools yourself and trying to do it yourself from scratch. And sometimes it will be very difficult, but at the end you will always like get out with like a new knowledge, a new understanding of what you're doing, and that will help you to even like what you do even more. So that's always been my approach. So that will be the response I give to you on that question.
Oh no, that's a great approach, and I love it actually because now you're inspiring me. Because I freely admit I'm lazy. I am using Strava and things of that nature. But since I do know the stuff and the Bannister formula actually looks really interesting, I'm like, yeah, you're right. Maybe I should just hack my devices and start building it out myself. So no, fair enough, fair enough. But then yeah, I mean, I guess then. So you mentioned like in terms of devices. Sorry, I'm gonna go on the hardware side a little. Like you said, you have a heart monitor and you have the watch, right, to track these things. I take it the heart monitor is mainly because that's separate, mainly because of the imprecision of like those like wearables typically when it comes to tracking your heart. I presume it's for that reason.
Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, I'm not using it a lot because so I always like, so as I said, so first of all, I'm not like a very fast runner. I know how to run long, but I'm not very, very fast. So for me, when I go for a long run, I don't like feel the need to necessarily like record my heart rate, because I'm just going out like to enjoy my run or something like that. But then for the interval training, that data becomes like very important to me, because for each like speed interval, you can then see like your recovery rate, kind of a way of like when is my heart rate returning to baseline, which was rate, etc., etc. And then you can see the curves, and from a training to another, you can see if your training worked, because maybe your recovery rate, like recovery speed, increase and things like that. So I'm only like using this data for like very, very specific workouts, necessarily not for like very long run. Also, yes, so the heart rate that I have is from the wrist. So it's not obviously like very, very accurate. It's less accurate than the one you can put on your chest. But for what I do, I guess it's enough.
And so, speaking of tools that you use, so you've mentioned heart rate, you've mentioned the watch, you mentioned that you sometimes would track, that you would analyze your runs using D3JS visualizations. What are some of the non-tech tools that you use when you go out on such long runs? Like, how do you ensure you have enough water for a 200-mile run? Like, what do you carry with you? It's not quite hardware, but what other tools do you bring with you when you run?
Yes, so I try to always have a flask, So nowadays, like what's great is that with the democratization of running, you do have a lot of like materials that can help you for like very long handover, and especially for like carrying water. You don't have to carry like a very bulky bottle anymore. You have like this very soft flask, kind of like container. And so I always start with that. And then where do I refill? It depends. So if I go like in nature, I do have like little capsules to, for bacteria. And so if I find a river, that's good. If I don't find a river, well, I'm in trouble. And it happened before. And sometimes, I mean, I remember a long run in the Santa Monica Mountains where it was during the night, and I was doing the Backbone Trail. And so on the map of this Backbone Trail, you actually see, toilets, and you think, okay, there must be water over there. And so you plan your run like that. And then when you arrive at the bathroom. Well, it's closed and there is no water. So I had to go, like it was midnight, past midnight. I had to actually knock on the door of someone because I was completely out of water. So yes, carrying water is very important. That's the first thing. And then obviously if you go for like 6-7 hours, you need food too. So I sometimes have a belt where I put like energy bar in it. But apart that, water and food, that's practically all you need. A bit of sunscreen, of course, sometimes.
And so when you're, obviously you can run at all hours of the day. You're doing these 24 hours, multiple day races. Do you have a preferred hour of the day that you run?
I mean, like at the sunrise, it's always like beautiful just because of the light and everything. So, and also during like multi-day events, the sunrise is always when you feel like new energy coming in, because you've passed like long hours in the dark and then you see the light, you see those color in the sky, so you get that re-energization kind of. So I would say around sunrise is my preferred time of the day to run.
Oh, that's so awesome! Actually, I completely with you. While I'm certainly not even remotely the same level as you in terms of sports, and I'm not even going to bother with the pretense. I do agree with you. I love the mornings, especially in my case. I typically ride across the 520 bridge in Seattle, so and with the sunrise off the mountains, especially if Mount Rainier's out. Oh yeah, that's easily the best way to keep me going. It's the nature itself is what keeps me driving and motivated. So completely grok where you're coming from. I'm just curious, but talking about motivations, which is not just related to how beautiful nature is, like what is one of the hardest running events you've actually taken part of? How do you keep motivated for those things? Yeah.
So of course, so as I said, I'm doing very long races. So some of the like hardest 100 miles I've done, for example, could be Hertz 100 in Hawaii. So the cool part of that race is that you are in nature, but you are in the Hawaiian nature, which means a lot of fruits, a lot of obstacles. So that was very hard because it was also a lot of elevation gain. I think that the full race is 28,000 feet of climbing during those 100 miles. So this one was hard, but I went there 3 times, so I guess it was still good. Obviously, the big backyard event, so the last man standing event, because it was long. And when I came into this race, I didn't know. I mean, the hardest part was not physically, I guess, it was the mental part, because you're arriving to a race where you actually don't know when it will finish. So it's like, okay, how do I prepare for that? How much food do I need? There are a lot of unknown. And so you arrive at this race with a mental state, like, I don't know, it could last 1 hour, it could last more. So there is this unknown part that is very exciting too. So that was hard on the mental challenge, I would say. And also at the end, we were only 2 for like 36 hours with my buddy Harvey Lewis. So, it was kind of a strange mental perimeter, but so that was hard on that level.
Oh, okay. I gotta roll back even. You throw out so many things. I'm gonna go. Did you just initially say was it the Barclay one? You had 28,000 feet of elevation?
Yeah, the Hurt one. The Hurt 100 is 28,000 feet of elevation in the race. So yeah.
Okay, so for everybody now, of course, I'm using a Seattle reference. For everybody to understand, that's 2 Mount Rainiers of elevation. Okay. This man just didn't rate. Okay, wow. All right.
But also it means that at one point you are at a very high point and you can see everything that is around. So that's really cool.
I'm not. Yes. I in a past life I was a former mountain climber, which is why I reference Mount Rainier. So I grok that, but still I'm like, okay. Are you sponsored for these things then? Because considering how much you're doing, like it seems to be almost like you need a like a race car driver, you need a sponsorship flag because of like this is some pretty amazing stuff. I'm just curious, do you do those as well?
So I have the chance to get sponsor for those races. And mostly when you do those kind of like events, you need shoes, a lot of them, because you go through a lot of pairs, obviously. So yeah, I had the chance of like in the US of meeting, of being there, I guess at the right moment, you know. So I met some great runners, and they introduced me to the sport. And then I got noticed by like the local revender of some brands, especially Salomon. And then after the 59-hour race, they basically call me. They say, "Hey, do you want to join the team?" So it was funny because I was a French in the US team. So it was very fun.
So how often do you go through pairs of running shoes?
So of course it depends of. I mean, I try to be like respectful of the shoe too. You know, it's not because you do have like free shoes that you want to just barely run with them and just throw them away. So usually, I mean, I tend to only like switch shoe when like it's barely usable anymore. So I would say I don't know, 3-4 years ago when I was running at my running peak. I could go like 2 pairs a month. So yeah, like 20-25 pairs a year.
That's incredible. Did you get a chance to break them in?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, so that's how you do it. Okay. And so Denny had mentioned a race I don't think you've had a chance to mention just yet, which is the Barkley Marathon. Could you share a bit more about what that race is and why it's such a gruesome race?
Of course. Yeah, so the Barkley might be the most famous race that I have run. I'm not a finisher, so it's a race that started like more than 20 years ago, actually 30 years ago, and there are only been 15 finishers of the full race. And so this race is very historic because basically the murderer of one of your presidents escaped from a prison. And 60 hours later, so it's a prison in Tennessee, in the wood, and it's surrounded by mountains too. So the guy tried to escape the prison, and he did. And then 60 hours later, he was found at only 8 miles from this prison. And so there is a very famous guy now in Tennessee called Lazarus Lake. His real name is Gary Cantrell, but he has, like every movie star, he has a specific name. So we call him Lazarus Lake. He said, "Oh, what? I mean, I know those mountains. In 60 hours, I could have done 100 miles." He was just laughing because this guy only ran 8 miles. And so that's how the race was born. He basically defined a path in those mountains, which is 100 miles, and that you have to run in 60 hours. Except that there is no trail. Basically, it's a race. You go from book to book. So basically, to prove that you went on the real path of the race, the guy hides books, and it's a loop race, and every loop you do have a bib number. And so each time you arrive at a book, you tear up the page of your bib number. And so you collect those pages in the woods, nights and day, and every loop you give him like the pages to prove that you have done the course. And so this race is very difficult because there is no trail. It's off trail, and so you have to go over like fallen trees. You have to climb some little cliff and stuff like that. Plus, you do have the navigation challenge too, because it's not marked. So you have like your map and a compass, and so you have to find those books in the forest. So it's a very cool event actually, and every year only like 40 people have the right to run it. And so also that's why the process for the registration is very mysterious. You do have to know when to send a letter to a specific address, and you have to know what to write on this letter. So it's kind of a very cool challenge just to get into the race. And so once you're into the race, it's a challenge to run the race. So I guess it's a challenging race.
And is the reward at the end being able to say that you're a finisher? Are there any prizes if you finish?
That's it. No, that's it. And so what happened is that each time there is a new finisher, the race becomes harder because then it adds another part of it to it. The idea is to keep the race at the limits of human potential. So each time you're a finisher, you make the race harder. So then the next guy hates you for that. So no reward at this race.
I love the fact that basically the entire premise of this race is how we can basically continuously torture the next person trying to do the race.
Exactly. So yeah, so look it up, the Barkley Marathon. It's there are like different documentaries that have been also done about it. It's kind of interesting.
Okay, but then how do you train for something like that and not get injured? Right? Because first of all, you just mentioned the fact that it's unmarked. You might be climbing cliffs. like how do you like seriously? I'm just like maybe it's just because I'm old, but I'm going like I feel like just training for this thing would injure me, let alone actually doing it.
Oh, it does. It does. You know, I mean, so actually, once you are into the race, you are allowed to join a specific Facebook group. And on this Facebook group, there is also a waitlister. So you do have like 40 people entering the race, and then you do have like 50 people in the waitlist. And the reality is that because when you train for this race, as you said, you might get injured. I mean, then that's why there is a wait list. And every year, 10, 15 people get injured training for it and are replaced by waitlister. So yeah, it's a real, problem. But then that's where you have to be smart. Maybe use a Bannister model to, make sure your training is on point. So that's what you can do. But yeah, it could be a problem. You could get injured. So obviously you don't want to do you want to do like smart things preparing for this race, definitely.
Danny, I think the moral of the story today is if we use data science, we can train smarter and avoid injury. That's the takeaway I have.
Well, no, I was actually hoping that I could use data science to make myself that much better of a runner, but but fair enough. I think you actually hit the point better than I did. Okay, fair enough.
And so, Guillaume, what does your normal training regimen look like? Do you do any form of cross training? Do you pretty much just stick to running? What does your schedule look like for training?
So I'm very bad. I mean, you read everywhere and everybody will tell you it's very good to cross train. It's very good to do some stretching and stuff like that. I'm very bad at it. So I just run. Actually, I just do some abs and push-ups, but that would be the most like cross training that I've done. But before, I mean, when I was at my peak, yeah, I was doing like a bit of biking, a bit of climbing, a bit of swimming too. So before, when I was like younger, I was doing triathlon. So I do have like this experience too. But nowadays I just run. So what a typical week looks like. So a few years ago, again at my peak, I was like waking up around 4:30 to 5, go for like 2 hours or 3 hours of running. And so I was seeing this beautiful sunrise every morning, taking a picture. And on LA it was beautiful. And then I was going to the lab. Nowadays, it's my life is a bit busier. I mean, work-wise. So I usually go after work. We do have in Bordeaux, so it's very flat, and we do have like several bridges along the Garonne, which is a river in Bordeaux. And so there is this very famous run, which called like around the bridges. So you go from a bridge to another, and it's very beautiful. So I do that after work. So I try to run 4 to 5 times a week, basically. I allow myself like 2 days off, and during the weekend I try to enjoy as much like the free time that I have during the weekend to go for like a longer run. It could be in the Pyrenees, so south of Bordeaux, or like in the little mountain nearby. Definitely the volume when you go for like those kind of races, doing a lot of volume can help you. Obviously you don't want to overdo it, but what's important is like consistency. So if you can run like 4 times a week instead of just 1 time a week where you do the same distance, that would be better to like speed it up a bit. So that would be my advice.
I feel there's almost like a data science ML model segue in all this. You keep on talking about running and then splitting it up, like partitioning your data, or you're basically doing model training. So you're training every day before you go to your production of the Pyrenees, where you actually apply the training for your runs. I feel that there's an analogy that we're missing here somewhere in this process.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. This is like a good project. You have the build phase, then you do have like the run phase in production. I totally agree. I think you do have a point, Denis.
So then we're going to segue back. How do you like, I mean, I know we asked this before, but still, it's amazing the level of effort that you have to do in order to be able to maintain this balance of like the work that you're doing and the running that you're doing. And so, I mean, again, there's that split that you're doing, but how are you able to get that balance? I guess that's more or less the question I'm trying to ask, because it's difficult, right? To be able to be top of your game in data science and top of your game and when it comes to running, outside of the analogy.
Yeah, no, definitely no. More seriously, yes, it's very challenging also because you also have like family commitments. So I mean, I have a very understanding girlfriend, that's for sure. She doesn't see me a lot during the week because I do like long hours at work, and then I have to go for a run, so she sees me even less. So yeah, that's part of the that's part of how I can do that. Is that people around me are very supportive of those different passions. But I totally agree that it can be a challenge, and I don't have like kids or anything like that, but I know that I have friends that are doing the same thing that I do, and they also have like more responsibility towards their family because they do have kids. So they are like, I really don't know how they do it because I know what it involves. So this is point. Yeah, this is. I mean, the point you are talking about is very key in doing those kind of stuff. You need to be able to balance your work, your family, and then your running. And so obviously you will have to make compromises. So I mean, in some of those areas because time is not. I mean, it's incompressible. So yeah, I mean, people will handle that differently. I'm very lucky that my family is very supportive in that. So that's how I do it. It's basically thanks to other people.
I was just saying, that's a great analogy from the standpoint that you need a support team, you need a team of people for your data science team, to support you for everything. So I'm playing up the segues way too much. Back to you, Brooke.
No, I could add that also for the running and those big events, you do have a crew of people also helping you. So yeah, I mean, this sport, it looks like a solo sport, but it's actually really a team effort every time. So I totally follow you on that. It's like a good data science team. You want to go for the star and deploy some new Delta Lake somewhere on an arcane cloud cluster. You need a team. You need DevOps. You need data scientists. You need software engineer. So totally agree on that.
Exactly. It's all hands on deck for the go live. Once it's successful, that's when you take your PTO. That's when you take your week off from running.
Correct.
And so I know you've got a race tomorrow. Can you share a bit more about what that race is?
Yes. So actually 2 weeks ago, a guy contacted me on Messenger. Didn't know that guy, but he was like, "Hey, I heard you're doing Barclay in a few months this year again, and I'm actually organizing this little race in my garden." So the guy has like different vineyards, and it's a 24-hour race, and he just asked me if I wanted to join. That's also what's very cool with like running is that people are not afraid. Like you might be like a very good runner, people are not afraid to contact you. It's like a huge community. So that's same like data science. If you need help, if you need more information about something, you can still reach out to someone and get an answer. So this guy contacts me. And I'm very glad he did because this race sounds very fun. It's a 24-hour race. It's basically the same system than the last man standing race, except that even if you're the last one, you can continue running. The race just stops at 24 hours, but it's a loop with some elevation in the vineyard around Bordeaux, and it's gonna be fun. It starts tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Well, best of luck with that, Guillaume. And I love how you just gave the analogy of Stack Overflow of data science to the huge community of runners. And so just to close out the session, one last question for you. What advice or tips do you have for people that want to get into either the field of data science or into the field of running?
Yes. So for data science, I would say that obviously if you're like very new to the field, you might want to like go to read some blog and follow some tutorial, but that would be very, very boring, I think, because it's always the same data set. And usually the data sets that you get are like already cleaned up. And in reality, in the real world, data sets are not very clean. So you need like, to clean your data set, extract your feature, do like the full feature modeling, etc., etc. So it's better to start with like a little project of your own. For example, I don't know, nowadays we do have like data coming from everywhere in our house. Could be like the temperature, it could be the cycle of your like refrigerator or whatever. And you could say, okay, I want to make a prediction of, I don't know, how I could like optimize my energy expenditure based on those little data. And so you start to collect those data. you open your computer, make a bit of Python, and then you fire up scikit-learn, and here you go. So the data science is more fun when you actually dealing with the data sets that you love, and you are like that can basically help you instead of like dealing with a data set from like airplane data or whatever, or something that is very outside of your life. So the tips for data science: start with a little project that you care about and that matters to you. That's always funnier. And then for running, I would say go one step at a time. Running, if you want to go too long, too early, could be very, very painful. So just start by, just around the block run, and don't do that every day. Maybe every third day or something like that. And then if you want to go longer, use running not as a way like to lose weight or for something something like that, but use it as a way to discover the world, to discover around you, or to meet people. Make it a positive attitude, and you will also feel better and more motivated to go for your run.
And I think one word that could link together both of the pieces of advice you gave, Guillaume, is find something that you're passionate about. So find a project you're passionate about, do some data analysis there. For running, find whatever it is that motivates you about running, and really find your passion there.
Totally agree on that.
So I just want to say thank you so much, Guillaume. This was such a fun session. Always great catching up with you. And thanks again for joining us on Data Brew.
Thank you very much to you guys for the invitation. It was very fun talking to you about those passion. And stay connected and stay data sciencey.